ಹಲೋ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್, UPSC, EPFO, ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಫಂಡ್ ಕಮಿಷನರು ಮತ್ತೆ ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು, ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು ಈ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ UPSC ಕಾಲ್ ಫಾರ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. 29th ಜುಲೈಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಒಂದೇ ಪೇಪರ್ ಇರೋದು 120 ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 300 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ 2 ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್. ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿನೂ ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರಿಕಗ್ನಿಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆನೆ ಯಾರು ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ನಾನು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ತಗೊಂಡು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಟೀಮ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ವಿತ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್, ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್. ಅವರೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್, ಜನರಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ಸ್, ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲೇಬರ್ ಲಾಸ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ. ಇದಿಷ್ಟರ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೊ ಅವರೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ತುಂಬಾ ಕ್ರೂಷಿಯಲ್ ರೋಲು ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದನ್ನ ಯಾರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀರಾ ಅವ್ರ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರೀತಾ ಇರೋರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು. ಸೊ UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇವರು ಜನರಲ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.
Hi there, greetings from CredenceIAS. Thank you for joining on the session on a brief session on labor laws. The topic or the focus area will be EPF and Miscellaneous Act 1950, and also there will be some trend analysis followed by that discussion. Let me introduce myself first. I am Ujwal Shetty. I'm currently working as enforcement officer with the same organization, that is EPFO, since 2.5 years, or little more than 2.5 years. Okay, anyway, going with the class today. Of course, the topic, as I said, is the EPF and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. Let me start with the overview. Broadly, here I have given the broad features or the overview of the act, which will include how and where it is the act is applicable, and then it will have the model of governance, what are the bodies within the organization or set up within the act to govern the funds and all other features of the scheme of the act. Going further there, here in the further to classify, here you can see this number of schemes which are there in the act. Then there are different schedules in the act specifying different things, followed by how to assess the dues, how to recover, all those parts are here. Then there are some special provisions known as exemption, which we'll see in the further course of the class. What is it? So there are some special provisions followed by penalties and administrative powers. So this is the whole purpose was to just to give an overview before we start. Now, coming to the first aspect, that is the applicability of the act. When I say applicability here, I mean the act. The applicability of act is different from applicability of scheme, which we'll see further. Now, I'm talking about the applicability of the act. This is applicable for all those establishments with 20 or more employees working in it, and that establishment is listed in the Schedule 1 of the Act. Okay, so if both those conditions qualify, they are automatically covered under the Act. Now, can the government extend this Act to those who are less than 20 employees? Yes, less than 20 employees, after 2 months notice, the appropriate government can extend the Act to that establishment. Now, there are certain establishments which will have less than 20 employees, but still want to enroll under the Act. They can enroll under the sub provision known as the voluntary coverage provision, which if the majority of the employees agree, they can get covered under the act. And once if it is covered, even if the count falls below 20, the act applies to that. Now there is an exception to this applicability. That is, this was asked once. Some cooperative societies registered under 1912 Act or some state cooperative laws, if they have less than 50 employees and working without the aid of power, they will be an exception for them to be covered under the act. But here, if the employees exceed 50 or equal to 50, and if they're working without the aid of power, then they are automatically get covered under the act. So this is an exception. Moving ahead, let's see what are the definitions, some basic definitions under the act. Here let's see what is appropriate government. Appropriate government here has two parts, as in the two features, two governments rather. Central government and state government. Central government is appropriate government for central establishment like railways, major ports, mines, oil fields, controlled industries, multi-state establishments, etc. And state government for all other establishments. Going further, there's something mentioned as authorized officer in the act. That includes several officers, which is detailed. Why I'm saying this? Because this keyword authorized officer is mentioned in the Act. Going ahead, this is the vital definition based on which the whole contribution is defined or contribution is made. That is basic wages. If you're working somewhere, those who are already worked, they know that in the salary component there is something known as basic. The basic forms the base for all other allowances to be paid as a certain percentage of the basic. So here it defines, includes all cash emoluments earned while on duty, on leave or holidays, but excludes food concessions, concession value, dearness allowances. Dearness allowance is nothing but an allowance is given to you for covering something inflation. To adjust the inflation, you are given a periodic increase in the allowances. HRAs, house rental allowances, then overtime, bonus, commissions. All this do not come under wages definition. Also, any presents given by the employer do not fall under the basic wages. Okay. Moving on. Now, who is an employer? Under the Act, it says for a factory, who is an owner or occupier or an agent or legal representative or any manager also under the Factories Act. Okay, there could be others also, a person authority with ultimate control. If the employer doesn't fall under this, then it can be any person who has ultimate control over the functions of the factory or establishment. Now, coming to employee, who is an employee? Employee is anybody who is working for wages. It could be manual or otherwise, in connection with the establishment. Now, this employee, does it cover the contractual workers? Yes, it includes contractual workers, includes apprentices, except for those who have been notified as apprentices under the state government. So, state government usually will notify these list of people as apprentices. So, those people are not considered as employee. Next definition is what is controlled industry. Here, in the public interest, if central government can define that this certain establishment or a certain industry will be under the control of union government in public interest, then that industry is known as controlled industry. Now, this was asked once earlier. We will discuss it further, like how it was asked. Going on, who is a recovery officer? The Act says there is somebody defined as a recovery officer who are permitted or legally allowed to recover the dues under the Act. After the definitions, we'll look at some key governance bodies who are related in the governing the fund and whole other features of the Act and scheme. Central Board, as per the Act, is the main governing body of all the funds. This is constituted by the central government via official gazette. Who are the members of this board? It will include a chairman, a vice chairman, which both are appointed by the central government. By default, the Central PF Commission, who is actually the head of the organization, is ex officio member. This could be asked in the exam, asking who are the members. Now, followed by these two, next we have 5 central government officials appointed by the central government, apart from these two, up to 15 state government representatives, 10 employer representatives, and 10 employee. Now, what are the functions of this board? The main function include administering the provident fund, performing functions under the scheme or the pension scheme or insurance scheme. There are in the Act a lot of functions which are specified to maintain proper accounts in the prescribed form and get the accounts audited by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Now, you would have read about Consolidated Fund of India, Contingency Fund of India, Public Accounts of India. So, this provident fund and all those contributions fall under public account, and public account is audited by CAG. So, getting that account audited by CAG is one of the functions of the Central Board or Board of Trustees. And after this reports are made, it is the duty of these people or that the board to submit that report to central government, who will lay that in the parliament. Now, coming to contribution, under this Act, it is said that all those members and subscribers will get certain benefits, monetary benefits, but to avail it, contributions are required. Now, how that contributions are made, it says that employers will make a certain percentage. Now, majority it is 12%. Only few establishments have 10%. So, they will make up 12 or 10% of contribution on basic wages plus dearness allowances plus retaining allowances, if any. So, on these three components, the contribution is made. This is from the employer side. Similarly, employees also will make a equal contribution from his own salary or his own pocket. Also on the same component, that is basic plus DA plus retaining allowances. Let's see what are the schemes which are there under the Act. Section 5 says that there will be EPF, that is Provident Fund scheme. Under this, the member will get a retirement savings for employees when they retire. Then there is EPS, that is employees pension scheme. After retirement, they'll get a certain amount of pension. Then there is EDLI.
ಹಲೋ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ UPSC EPFO ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಫಂಡ್ ಕಮಿಷನರು ಮತ್ತು ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು ಈ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ UPSC ಕಾಲ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. 29th ಜುಲೈಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಒಂದೇ ಪೇಪರ್ ಇರೋದು 120 ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 300 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸಿಗೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ 2 ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್. ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಯಾಲ್ರಿನೂ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರಿಕಗ್ನಿಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋದರೆ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೇ ಯಾರೂ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ನಾನು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಟೀಮ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ವಿತ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್, ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್. ಅವರೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. particularly on the subjects like general English, general accounting principles, industrial relations and labor laws, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸೋಷಿಯಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ. ಇದಿಷ್ಟರ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೊ ಅವರೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಕ್ರೂಷಿಯಲ್ ರೋಲು ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀರಾ ಅವ್ರ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರಿತಾ ಇರೋರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು. ಸೊ UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು ಅಂದರೆ ಇವರು ಜನರಲ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಕೋರ್ಸನ್ನು ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.
This is a death insurance. Those who are in the course of their employment, if they die due to various reasons, they will get this insurance. The amount is linked to their available or existing PF balance. So broadly there are 3 schemes. One is Provident Fund. Second is employees pension scheme. Third is insurance. So within the Act, there are 3 schemes. As I said in the first slide, that there will be recovery process, dues assessment when the employees default. After that proceedings happen, employees need to have an appellate mechanism or dispute settlement mechanism. So within the Act, under Section 7 or 7D of the Act, it talks about setting up of tribunal in order to redress the disputes arising out of the Act. Prior to 2017 Finance Act, Industrial Tribunal set up under the Industrial Disputes Act of 1947 was the tribunal for determining or addressing the disputes. However, after 2017 Act, the tribunals were consolidated, and Industrial Tribunal, which came out of this Act, is the dispute redressal mechanism under the Act from 2017 onwards. Okay, so earlier it was Industrial Tribunals. Now it is CGIT, Central Government Industrial Tribunal. Now let's come to another exceptional features of the Act, that is exemption. To understand exemption, you should know what is unexempted. Unexempted means the Act applies as they are supposed to contribute. The employers are supposed to, or establishment are supposed to contribute, and that contributed money will be deposited with EPFO. But there are certain establishments, they have sought exemption or got exemption. They will maintain their own fund within themselves and ensure social security for their employees. But this will happen through a procedure only. This doesn't, we saw that Cooperative Act, the Act, certain cooperatives are not included in the Act. For them, the Act doesn't apply. Here, the Act applies, but the money that comes in, they hold it as a trust for exempted establishment. That is, they only maintain it. Now, who can give the exemption or power to exempt? Appropriate government. We saw appropriate government, there are 2 governments under that. So they may exempt, provided there are certain procedure to be followed. Condition for exemption is, under Provident Fund or all the other schemes, they can get exemption for 3 schemes. We saw there are 3 schemes. For those 3 schemes can be given exemption for. Now, all those benefits under the scheme which they get under the original scheme should be if this trust gives the benefits, it should be better than the benefit that is provided by the act or the organization, that is EPFO. So it should not be less favorable than the what our organization gives. Similarly, all other benefits should be much better or at par with what we give. Now, can the employees themselves request for exemption, that they're saying that I want to maintain the fund separately, we will ensure investment, we will make sure that all the benefits are provided at par or better? Yes, they can actually apply. If the employer and majority of the employees can approach the appropriate government, central government in this case, and ask for exemption. The condition is with 100 or more employees, if the employees request, in that case, the central government can provide exemption. Okay. Now let's come to discuss some of the previous year questions. This includes 2023, 2021 AOEO papers, and last year's 2023's APFC as well as AOEO paper. So 3 papers are included. I've clubbed it. Okay. Now here it is asking, what is a controlled industry? We saw in the definition what controlled industry means. I will not go into the other options because we already discussed what that means. So based on that discussion, the answer will be A. Any industry, the control of which by the union has declared by any central act to be expedient in the public interest. Okay. Going on, proceeding with the other questions. Which of the following statements under the EPF Act is not correct? To determine what is not correct, you should know which are correct first. The features that we saw already. The first question is, it makes a provision for pension scheme, including family pension. We just saw among the 3 different schemes, this provision is there. It also makes provision for employees deposit linked insurance scheme. It is there. Yes, we saw that. This is also correct. The provision of the act shall not be applicable to the cooperative societies employing 50 or more persons working without the aid of power. This is not correct. Why? Because when we read it, it said if less than 50 are working in the cooperatives without the aid of power, then it is not applicable. But if it is 50 or more without the aid of power, then it is automatically applicable. So this is wrong. Going further, the contribution by the employer to the fund shall be on basis of the basic wages, dearness allowances and retaining allowances. Yes, when we discussed the contribution part, we saw that this is the way they are contributing. So for this 35, the answer is C. Let's move on to the next question. What is the minimum number of employees employed by an establishment functioning without the aid of power and is registered under the Cooperative Societies Act shall require it to come within the purview? It is nothing but the previous questions part only. They have asked in different way. How many minimum required to come under the purview of the Employees Act for cooperatives without the aid of power is nothing but A, 50. We saw that in the previous question also. This question pertains to tribunal. Which one of the following authorities constituted by central government shall be the appellate authority under the Employees Provident Fund Act? Employee Provident Funds Appellate Tribunal, National Tribunal, Labour Appellate Tribunal, Industrial Tribunal. We saw it is the Industrial Tribunal in the previous discussion. Okay. This coming to the last question. We discussed about exempted establishments. We saw that employers can also request exemption. The question asks minimum how many members or employees are required to make a request for exemption. So I'll read out the question. What is the minimum number of employees required to be working in establishment so that employer with the authorization of the majority of the employees of the establishment may apply to the central government to authorize the employer to create separate provident fund under the act is nothing but 100. Okay. So that completes a brief discussion on the act, that is EPF Act and some of the PYQs under the act. Now going further, here we will discuss topic-wise distribution of questions of last year's APFC and AOU. Here you can see first is General English. Both this first paper is AOU, second in LO is APFC. In both English has equal weightage, that is 20 questions. Before that, going into individual subjects, what I want to inform is, you see labor laws which are specific to this paper, English and accounting and auditing. They have good almost 20 plus 35 plus 14, so almost 50 questions, 50 to 55 out of 120 questions are from this specific topics. If you were to include computers also, then it probably touch 60 to 65. Touch 60 to 65. Okay, so that is the takeaway. Anyway, now to discuss what is there.
ಹಲೋ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್, UPSC EPFO ಅಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ರಾವಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಫಂಡ್ ಕಮಿಷನರು ಮತ್ತು ಎನ್ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು, ಅಕೌಂಟ್ ಆಫೀಸರು, ಈ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ UPSC ಕಾಲ್ಫರ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. 29th ಜುಲೈಗೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಒಂದೇ ಪೇಪರ್ ಇರೋದು 120 ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, 300 ಮಾರ್ಕ್ಸಿಗೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದಾದಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ವ್ಯೂ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ 2 ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್, ವೆರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ವರ್ಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್. ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ಸ್ಯಾಲ್ರಿನೂ ತುಂಬ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಒಳ್ಳೆ ರಿಕಗ್ನಿಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಸೊಸೈಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ಗೆ. ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಮತ್ತು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್. ಸೊ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಹೋದರೆ ಇದ್ರ ಮೇಲೇ ಯಾರೂ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ನಾನು ನೋಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನು ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಟೀಮ್ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಕಂಡಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ವಿತ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್, ಪೀಪಲ್ ಹೂ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್. ಅವರೇ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂದುಬಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಜನರಲ್ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್, ಜನರಲ್ ಅಕೌಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸಿಪಲ್ಸ್, ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಲೇಬರ್ ಲಾಸ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸೋಷಲ್ ಸೆಕ್ಯೂರಿಟಿ. ಇದಿಷ್ಟರ ಮೇಲೆ ಸೊ ಅವರೇ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದ್ರಿಂದ ನಿಮಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಕ್ರೂಷಿಯಲ್ ರೋಲು ಪ್ಲೇ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋತೀರಾ ಅವ್ರ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೇ ಇರ್ತೀರಾ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರಿತಾ ಇರೋರು ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು. ಸೊ UPSC ರೆಡಿ ಆದವರು ಅಂದರೆ ಇವರು ಜನರಲ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ ಇರ್ತದೆ, ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ವೀಕೆಂಡ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸೀರೀಸು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಇದನ್ನು ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಕೋರ್ಸನ್ನು ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ತೊಗೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್.
There are so many topics, that is English, reasoning, computers, accounting and auditing, labor laws, general science, history, culture, current affairs, Indian polity, economy, social security. In both the papers, in AOEO as well as APFC, you get questions. That is why you cannot miss out on any topics. But you can see that English, labor laws and auditing will have, accountancy and auditing will have more emphasis because of the utility of these topics in the organization. Now under accountancy, let's see where the focus area has been. Starting from here, that's how the arrangement has been. Accounting standards, you have questions reasonable. The distribution you see is more or less on the equal side. So there's no particular area where they're focusing. As in, if you were to divide this, there's equal distribution. Equal distribution there has been. So the focus has been on accounting standards, followed by basics of financial accounting. This is also important because basics of accounting is very much important, because to understand the other topics, to score there, you have to have a good grab over that. So we can say that indirectly all these topics are linked to this. Without knowing the basics, you cannot answer all those questions. Then there are types of accounts and rules, this part, general ledger and trial balance. Then there are final accounts. Here this part involves some kind of numericals also. Then there is capital revenue, etc. etc. So you can see a wide variety of topics they have been asking with equal weightage, almost equal weightage. And coming to English part, starting from here, you can see fill in the blanks, very small proportion. Para jumbles, very small proportion. But the comprehension, this part, comprehension, grammar, tenses, articles has the greater emphasis on that. Then there is vocabulary part. Then there is correction, that is also 11%. So the greater focus is on this comprehension, some grammar. You can see the one word. You can also see there's one word substitution, idioms and phrases. Okay, these are easier ones. One word. There are, if you can make a list of important one word substitution, idioms and phrases, memorize it again and again, you will be able to answer. But this part you have to practice this part. These things would require some kind of memorization, idioms and phrases and all those things. Okay, but here you have to have a good thorough grab over the concepts or grammar or in the language. Coming to general science and computers, here computers they have included because the importance of computers are very important in the organization, because it plays a very critical role in all the services that we provide. That is why they have their focus areas include cyber security, starting from here, cyber security, operating systems and file management. Okay, then it includes basic computer terminology, MS Office tools, that is shortcut keys. What are the features, shortcut keys, and different things they are asking. And internet and email usage, there also the focus area has been. And general, you have to refer to NCRT books for a reference, 9th and 10th. Then you can use books like Lucent's general knowledge book science edition to understand the general science part, or rather prepare for the general science part. Okay. So in science part, you have basic like physics, chemistry, biology, human body, disease, environment, climate change. These are like the focus is wide. These are very general topics. So you cannot focus on particular area. You have to study most of the chapters and revise it again and again. To reiterate, UPSC has launched a notification for 156 AOEO posts and 74 APFC posts. The last date for application is 18th of August this month, and the exam is likely to be conducted on 30th of November. This is a golden opportunity for all those who have been preparing for UPSC or KPSC, that there are a lot of topics which are already you have studied, like polity, economy and all those things, but only those few subjects, that is accountancy, labor laws, and maybe if needed general English also, you have to focus on for the next few months, that is 3 months. So the time is sufficient, it is the right time. So I want all those who have not applied, go and apply, and those who already applied, I would request you to start preparing right away. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.